So, as I'm prepping for Barnum's Bones, I am in a situation where I'm prepping for multiple classes at the same time. So, I end up cutting a lot of these bone sets out. Now, it is important to point out that there are bone sections. We're not going to cut out the individual tail vertebrae or the feet pieces. Those kind of go together. But on that sheet, there are 8 different pieces, which when I'm prepping for 3 or 4 classes, that's a whole lot of bone sets to cut out. So I've got some ideas that will make the cutting out a little bit easier. And I would recommend, even if you're only prepping for one class, you want at least 2, probably 3 sets, because it's always a good idea to have extras of these pieces around because some of them are tiny and will get lost. Now I like to get 3 sheets of paper together. I get them nice and straight. You could do this with 2, but again, I'm trying to be efficient with my time. So I get these pieces, these 3 pieces stacked together, and I found that using a stapler and stapling the sheets together helps keep them from sliding terribly. So I get the papers all nice and straight, and then I add about 3 or 4 different staples between the bone pieces, not just on the edge, but between the bone pieces, so that my pages really stay firmly together, so that as I'm removing the pieces, it doesn't go all sliding. Because while this isn't terribly precise cutting work, nonetheless, it's frustrating if you end up cutting off like a whole toe, because I do kind of want the kids to have a sense of what these bones look like. It will help them make better evidentiary statements on why they decided to put this piece wherever. So I've got 4 different staples in here, and notice I didn't do the edge, but that helps keep it together. Now when I start cutting, I do like to cut off the edge border, just to get some of the weight off the piece of paper, and so that I've got an easier time manipulating. Now here I'm cutting really close to this bone. I don't always stay that close. Definitely it's not a cutting on the line, it's cutting just outside the line. But I do kind of follow the contour of the bone, because I want the kids to have a sense of the shape of things, because then it'll make it easier for them to identify what these parts are. So I just cut along and I kind of follow the trace. I don't necessarily cut out every single toe, but I get kind of close in there, um, and just kind of follow the exterior um, border of it. So like that jawbone where it's nice and close, I follow that, but then I get a little bit further away for the start of the backbones there. So I cut all of that out. I'll follow this foot in here just to kind of start getting that shape, so that then while I'm getting rid of the border, I've got the shape so that I've got less to go back and recut out. So now I've got just the bones and the interior in here, and I get rid of the extra. And you can see some of the places where I kind of gave myself a little bit of a border, but you can also see I'm giving myself bruises on my knuckles because I am cutting 3 pages. It's a good idea to have really nice sharp scissors for this. So then I start cutting out the individual pieces. I do like to keep them together, where I cut out the pieces so that I keep as many staples in as possible. So I'll cut out this um, backbone section with the ribs and kind of cut that out, but keep the staple in there so the rest of my pages stay together, because it's much easier when the pages do stay together. So I cut this bad boy, and you can see I've got my 3 pieces, and I sit those to the side. I might trim that later, but who knows. But I will cut out the rest, and I will speed up the video so you don't have to watch me cutting this out in real time. So now that I have all of the bone sections cut out, I've got my 8 different pieces. I like to set them out and prep my 3 envelopes at the same time. I recommend labeling them both on the back and on the front. And I have a tendency to color code my sites so that I can look very quickly at an envelope, which, by the way, I do reuse. Classroom after classroom and year after year, because this, I know site D is green, I can quickly identify to keep those separate from the site A's, which are red. But then I just start grabbing pieces. I grab a head and ribs and grab a foot. Sometimes the pieces do stick together, because I am cutting multiples apart. But I go through and do one set first out of my 3 and stack them all together, making certain, or trying to be certain, that they don't stick together, and trying not to forget any of the little pieces. Getting all of those nice and stacked, and then I grab my envelope and stick them all in, so then that's ready to go, and I put that to the side. Now that I've just got 2 left, it becomes a whole lot easier. I just kind of make piles where I've got a rib pile and a rib pile, and then a head goes with a head, and then the feet with the feet. Because then also this way, if I reach down for a bone section and there's only one left, I can really easily identify, oh, I must have had some stuck together in the last set, so I know exactly which envelope to go to. I've made the mistake of cutting out like 8 of the same thing, and then I can't figure out where I've put one of these tiny little neck bones, which is a total pain in the neck. But then I've got those 2 additional sets, and I stick one set in an envelope, and then I stick the next section in an envelope, and they're totally ready to go. Because you do end up with bruised knuckles, I recommend sharp scissors for that. And so then So now that I have all my bone sites sorted and filled, I like to get them together, and I start putting them in order. Like, this one has all of the ones from A, and then the next envelope I'll put is site B, and then I'll do site C, and then site D, and then I just keep going in that rotation, because like this year where I have kids working in smaller groups than in their fours, I'll want to make certain that I don't have a site A right next to another site A, so I can kind of keep track of where the letters are if I kind of sort them in alphabetical order and just keep doing that rotation, because there are only the 4 sites. So just to have some variety, so kids aren't sitting right next to a table or group that's working on the same one, so that they can do that. But that's how we get all of the different envelopes together. All right, so I'm all prepped to do Barnum's Bones today for 3 classes. So I do feel like it's important to show my backup plan. So I've got the paper reflection for the 3 classes. Of course, I've got enough and extras for each child in the class. I also have my sets of the dig sites. Now, because I want to be certain that if the classes are in tables where there are 5 groups of kids, I've got 2 of some of the sites. So I've got sites A through D, but like in this packet, there are 2 sites A, just in case the class has 5 tables of kids working together versus 4. My next set has 2 Bs, so on and so forth. But I have as backup, number 1, I've got my template that I photocopied for the different sites. I have that just in case there's any problems or we're missing any, because some of these sets do have really small bone pieces that, when we're looking at 3rd graders, sometimes these little tiny pieces that I've cut out have a tendency to wander away. Now, of course, I look under the table, but just in case they're lost, I do also have a set that I'm not planning on teaching with, where I've got one of each site, so that if I do have an emergency where we've lost, I don't know, one of these itty bitty pieces, it's floated away in the classroom, I can just go into the envelope and pull out an extra, just because you never know. I do also have my collection of dinosaur resource books. I wish I had a couple more, but I think with 7, that will give the kids enough options that they can trade out. Barnum's Bones is a great book. It's got beautiful illustrations, but if I want students to have time to do their own exploration and have enough time for the activity, I have found that I need to abbreviate some of the story because it is very text heavy. There are some pages where they go on to kind of really over exaggerate how many fossils Barnum was finding as a child. So I put Post-its over places that I'm like, I could probably cut this out. And you'll see that, I mean, look, there is a lot of text on each page. So you can see that every couple of pages I'm trying to cut out a sentence or two just because it's really not necessary. And I have to do it to, oh gosh, I got a lot of pages here but you know, it can be cut down. You don't have to read every word, and I do explain to students ahead of time that they may see me skip over things, and that's okay. I'm not going to skip over any really important parts of the story. As I'm ending the story, I do also like to show the kids that they know this dinosaur because of the Night at the Museum movies. Barnum's T-Rex is, of course, the one from the movie that the kids all know. So I like to have this picture just to kind of trigger for them that they do know this dinosaur, that this isn't just some random T-Rex skeleton that they've never seen referenced before.